All right, good evening, everyone. Again, we want to thank you and welcome you to coming for the Caldwell County Board of Commissioners meeting, the June 9th, 2025 meeting. Welcome those who are in our audience in attendance here this evening, those who are now joining us by medium of YouTube, Facebook, Channel 190, smoke signals, and everything else we're sending up to be very transparent for our county meetings. How's that? So with all of that, our first item of business, we'll have our invocation, Dr. Marty Jacumin from the Mountain Grove Church, and then our Pledge of Allegiance. We'll follow that with Commissioner Jeff Branch. So thank you for coming, Reverend.
Thank you for having me and having this opportunity. Let's pray together. Father, we are coming together before you with joy. Lord, thankful that we can gather. Lord, I'm thankful for the freedom that we have, Lord, to voice our concerns, to share with one another. Lord, I'm thankful that as we've just celebrated Memorial Day, there are many who laid down their lives, many from this county, so that we could have this freedom. No, we don't take that lightly. So, Lord, tonight I pray for this meeting. I pray for our county leaders. Thank you for giving them the gifts and talents, the abilities to lead. Lord, I pray for all that's said tonight. Lord, would we say it, Lord, confidently but humbly? Lord, that we would say it with love in our heart for one another as we are called here to live together. So, Father, I pray tonight. I pray that you would give wisdom, you would give understanding, you would give clarity, you would give transparency, all that we need, Lord, to lead well, love well, and live together in peace. Father, we love you, and we pray this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Everyone face the flag. Salute. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Do we have any amendments to our agenda this evening?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. We have two items to add to the consent agenda. Item number 36, which will be a one-time funding allocation to the community college in the amount of $150,000. And then item number 37, which will be a termination of a memorandum of understanding with Integrated Care of Greater Hickory Incorporated.
All right. Hearing those amendments to our agenda, what's the pleasure of the board in adopting our agenda this evening?
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept this evening's agenda as the county manager has presented.
Any other comment or discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that motion carries. And the first item on our agenda is a resolution. Mr. Tommie Fite is with us, I think, this evening. And this is in supporting of the involuntary commitment transportation with Foothills Medical Transit. So you were here with us last month, weren't you?
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Last month, I believe.
Yeah.
It has. Mr. Speaker, Commissioners, thanks for the time this evening. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
So I think now, hopefully, I know I have spoken with the attorney. Before you now this evening should be three main articles of the legal plan to move forward with the designation to make Foothills Medical Transit a authorized company to transport involuntary committals in the county of Caldwell. And one thing that I just wanted to just kind of reiterate with you gentlemen is the fact that you're not creating an agency, a bond, a franchise. It is literally a designation. So there is no like mutual agreement between you guys, the county, and my company. It is just a designation, which is good for both parties, meaning that the county's not held liable for anything that may or may not happen, you know, as a result of our transports. It's strictly on us.
All right. And I know you had a presentation again last month, and we were kind of missing the sheriff's office in this piece, and so they're here tonight, I think, and then we've had some contractual things that have come across, and so I think we're just at a motion needed of adopting this. dependent on the county manager's approval after we get through the final documents. Does anybody have any questions of Mr. Fite and/or the sheriff's office tonight? Sheriff Bean, you good with all this, aren't you?
Did we get the vehicle, him purchasing the vehicle from us resolved?
That'll be in July. It had to be posted, so it's on July.
Got it.
I'd like to ask y'all some questions about all this.
So, I'm sorry.
So if we do this, when would you get started?
After the seal of the county is presented to the hospital.
Okay.
You guys are just step number one. Then we have to, one of the third parts of this is an addendum to our contract agreement with UNC Caldwell, and that ultimately will, once that is adopted from the hospital, then we can legally take custody of the involuntaries in the
Right.
county. So you guys are granting us that
Right.
authorization, and then we have to present that to the hospital and get their agreement and understanding that we
Yes,
can
sir.
transport them.
All right. Okay. Any other questions? Do I hear a motion that we approve this contingent upon our county manager and county attorney's review?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Any other discussion or comment? All right, call the question. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that motion carries. And we thank you for your
Absolutely.
efforts
Absolutely.
in
Thank you for
this.
the opportunity.
Certainly trying to help us eliminate some cost back to the county that we've been incurring for a number of years. And so we appreciate anything to help us do that.
Absolutely. We'll take good care of them.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. All right.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to item 2, contract extension with HDR. So I think this is the, Emily, it's going to come, yep.
The lady
did-
with all the answers.
You didn't make Barry come tonight?
No, you know, y'all know Barry. So the extension for HDR, as you guys know, we've had the tank project going on for quite a while now. So the extension is just to cover our, the extension of the project. So Phoenix is the company that is building the tank. They got behind during Helene. They got deployed to other parts of the country, well, other parts of the state, to repair some infrastructure there, which put us behind with them. There is going to be some recoup of those costs with a per diem. It's $500 a day. So as of right now, we have another meeting with them on Monday for an updated timeline. We're looking at the first part of August for that to be completed. So our original completion date was May 4th. So from May 4th to whatever completion day is, that's $500 a day that will recoup those costs. And that will more than cover the extension for the HDR contract.
Okay. Good. Now, is this contract extension also going to look at our other, we had some issues during the public work sessions about water distribution, the water system as a whole, looking at that to maybe highlight or get some areas that we could loop together to increase pressures. Isn't this HDR group the same group that
It's the
does
same
that?
group, it is, but this is just for the,
Okay.
just for the tank project.
But we were going to pursue
We are, yes.
perhaps
I've talked to them
contracting
about
with them.
that, so yeah,
Okay.
that's coming down, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And we did get a photo today
Yeah.
of some activity going on
Oh,
there at
really?
the tank, and it's actually in the air, looks like.
Yeah, I hadn't been out there recently, but they say they've got it almost ready for disinfection and for paint. So
Okay.
we're getting there.
It looked good to me.
Yeah.
I see it every Sunday.
Have you had any more noise complaints?
That's right. All right. So Do I hear a motion that we extend the contract with HDR and the completion of this tank?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we extend the contract with HDR till we get the tank completed.
All right, any other discussion or comment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries unanimously. So
Thank
thank
you.
you, Emily. And next, the item that everybody's here wanting to talk about tonight, and that is our 25-26 fiscal year budget. And our interim manager, Mr. Wayne Rash, will have a presentation about where we're at today.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we're here tonight to discuss a budget, so the 2025-2026 proposed budget ordinance. It's a total of $130,565,746 budget with a $105,202,133 general fund appropriation. The couple of highlights from the budget, we went over some of these last month as we presented it, increases funding for public safety. This budget continues our investment in Caldwell County schools and the Caldwell Community College and Technical Institute. Even in a difficult budget year, we've increased our investment in the education of our next generation. The proposed budget cuts the tax rate significantly. This year's property reevaluation resulted in increased property values for many of our residents. This budget seeks to offset that increase to the greatest extent possible while maintaining revenue for needed services and avoiding future tax increases. Additionally, reducing the tax rate will lower vehicle taxes for our citizens as well. The budget contains a continuation of the merit program for county employees. This program rewards employees for performance and has been a great success. It also contains over $2 million in capital investments, and this includes funding for new patrol cars, ambulances, and new voting machines to make elections operate more efficiently. One of the big highlights is it creates a new reserve account for landfill proceeds to prepare the county for the eventual cost of waste disposal when the current landfill reaches capacity. And finally, it continues to fund economic development efforts, which I know has been a priority of this board, to bring new, well-paying jobs to Caldwell County and strengthen our existing businesses. So with that said, I would present that budget to you for your consideration tonight.
All right. So having the budget presented at this time, we will declare the public hearing open. And if the clerk will bring around our sign-up sheet, we'll see how many folks want to speak to us this evening. Thank you. All right, and it appears we have one person signed up who would like to speak, and again, it's Patrick. So come on up, sir.
No, I still hear it. I've got a quick question on the tax thing. If you double our taxes on our house and you only drop it, what, 11 or 12 cents, how are we saving a dime? Because you doubled the price of our land, so dropping it 12 cents, that's still a 38% raise.
Point taken, sir. Yeah.
So he just got done saying that it was lowering our taxes. In return, you just admitted it raised our taxes. So what is it?
I'm just admitting you've got a good point. We're not here trying to raise your taxes this evening. It depends on how much it depends on how much your property increased in value.
My property tax increased double, so even dropping it 12 cents, you're not saving me $1. You're actually getting more money from it.
Okay.
I mean, so, and why do we need a new landfill? If we quit taking everything from everybody else in the state, our landfill wouldn't fill up so quick, especially with contamination. I mean, I live right down the street from it. I don't want that contaminated stuff that close to my house. I didn't move there to see contamination come in.
Well, that's a contract that was written over 20 years ago with a prior commission.
Oh, so you contracted 20 years ago to take contaminated debris
Not
in from it?
contaminated, but landfill debris. That was contracted 20 years ago.
I understand that, but
And-
Hurricane Helene wasn't contracted 20 years ago with contaminated debris.
Right, but the state, DEQ, says that all agreements are off and the state can put into the landfills what for the hurricane debris. We had no choice in that.
The state didn't really want it here, as far as I know, because I talked to some state people that said they were voting against it being here in this county, that it needed to go in their own towns.
Well, we voted against it also, but we were told differently.
I mean, are y'all acting as a government agency, or are y'all acting under a LLC or an incorporation license, which makes you the same as me if I have a business? Which one are we here?
You know, we're a government agency, sir.
But Caldwell County has a business license, am I right or wrong?
We got a government license.
Okay. I mean, so the patrol cars you talking about replacing, don't they already have new ones they've had for a little while that they're just now starting to bring out? So if they've already got patrol cars, why do we need to buy more?
Well, sir, we have a mile program with those vehicles, and in 23 and 24, we couldn't purchase vehicles because of supply chain issues, and Ford wasn't making those Explorers. So therefore, a year and a half, we didn't receive any cars, so we miled our cars to, I think it's 125 or 140,000 miles. You know, we think a lot about public safety, and so this year, we basically had to double up on the cars from last year and going forward. I mean, for us to say we're going to get those cars, it's probably going to be a year to 18 months before we even get those cars because they're so far behind. But I want to make sure that if you call 911 and you need a deputy, that they can get there without the car breaking down or anything else. So we need to make sure that they have good, solid vehicles that are provided by the state contract, and we outfit them locally in Statesville, so we don't go out anywhere. But that's just something that we got caught in because Ford wasn't making those vehicles through 23 and 24. We got some, but not what, we mile out about 8 cars a year, roughly.
I get it.
And so 2 years together, that's what that is. That's plain and simple. I mean, you know, we went to a black car, so it's cheaper. We went to a hybrid car, so it saves money on gas. I mean, we've done a lot of things just within the sheriff's deputies' cars, but I'm going to provide them with a good piece of equipment because they're putting their lives on the line every single day for each and every one of us.
I do the same thing.
And I'm going to do my best to do that for them.
I do the same thing.
Good.
I mean, but I want to ask a question because I'd like to know, because I've been seeing new cars roll out regularly, and then I hear you're putting in the budget this year, so now, and I'm like, it don't make no sense when I've been seeing cars roll out. And as far as I know, all our city cops, there's no such thing as a city cop in the state of North Carolina. I can show you case law on that. And the deputies, you know, the problem with the deputies is all the deputies get paid by the county, correct? Except for one. That's the sheriff. His comes from the governor's office, so that strips his power, which in return, he's supposed to be the law of the land. And y'all should have on all state and county and your city call police cars need to have tags on front and back, even to do anything inside a courtroom against the public. You might say your citizens need to have one tag, but employees, government employees need to have 2. And these cars can't be ghost. They have to be identifiable.
Well, we follow state law on what they are, and we outfit them that way, and so.
So does the state law?
The county doesn't have anything to do with the city of Lenoir, town of Hudson, Sawmills, any of those municipalities. We don't have anything to do with it. We're Caldwell County Sheriff's Office, and the sheriff does work for Caldwell County. He's elected by the populace of Caldwell County, and he serves at the pleasure of the people.
But he gets paid through the governor's house.
No, sir. He is paid through county tax money.
I like to see all that, because I've
It's
studied a lot of law.
Open to the public, in the budget. His salary, everything.
Okay, so, but if I want to stake a claim on something, I have to put it in a paper or on media for 30 days. Then I can pull it out.
Yeah.
Then I gotta leave it for 30 more days to see if anybody rebukes it. Why do y'all get 10 days and that's all we get to rebuke what y'all do? What makes y'all better than us?
Yeah, well, number one, I'm no better than you are, but I will say we're
You
following.
put your pants on the same way I do.
We're following the state law with what we do, so and that's all we're governed by is
Does
state
state
law.
law in line with federal law?
As far as I know, it is. So,
All right.
all right.
Thank you.
Don't seem like it. Sounds like there's some conflict of interest going on. I see it right here.
All right. So he is the last and only one that signed up to speak during the public hearing portion of our budget here this evening. And so I'm going to close the public hearing. And I've got a statement I'd like to read that I wanted to present this evening. So if you'll bear with me. But first of all, I'd like to thank my fellow commissioners for the time and the effort that we've each one put into reaching the point that we are tonight in the adoption of this 2025-26 budget. I also want to thank our staff, our department heads, and especially our interim manager, Mr. Wayne Rash, as he's helped us to navigate this process with grace and often courage as he's faced some fierce questions from this group. And to Tony Helton, our finance director, we've put you through the ringer, along with Josh Angle, our tax administrator. You guys have been instrumental in the budget process, and I just want to say again, thank you for all that you've done. This budget began really in last year and began to take shape because we knew that there was a reevaluation year that was going to be coming. As many of you know, we're required to assess the property tax values on a 4 or 8 year cycle. However, certain benchmarks are attained as a county and the rate of increase exceeds the minimum standard set, then we're required to do an assessment after 4 years, and that's what hit us. And we entered into the reevaluation process knowing that it was imminent that we were going to have to do that. We've all been dreading the assessments because we had seen the increases in our neighboring counties and throughout our state. And when those new assessments came out in January, our fears were realized much as the public's fears were. Those increases started at some 25%, with some experiencing 75% increase in their values. My home, myself, increased 68% in the Collinsville community. I saw my neighbors, my friends, my family, who all saw increases in their property values. Basically, overnight, we were worth more the day after the values came out than we were the day before. So I looked at it like this. When I went to sleep that night, I woke up the next morning, I had more money value intrinsic to me. And it was certainly something that was shocking on one hand, but well received on another if I want to go borrow money on my home. But inflation cost and construction in the area that we live are all factors to blame for this increase. My son is currently trying to build a home. He's got an 1,800 square foot home under construction, and his construction loan is for $400,000. That didn't count the land that I was afforded to be able to give him, or the grading that was done, and all the variables outside of that. So the cost of homes has gotten expensive, to say the least. And let me say this, I didn't want to see the increase, and if we could have possibly pushed the reevaluation process off, we would have. But the state of North Carolina said we couldn't do that. By the way, there's been a lot of speculation and talk about insurance rates and how our tax assessment caused your insurance rates to go up, and that's not true. Insurance rates are based on the replacement cost and the value of your home. And so your homeowner's policies are adjusted accordingly because of what the insurance does. So it doesn't have anything to do with your taxable rate there on your home, your property value. So I know that the increase means, for many of us, an increase in our values. And I've got folks in my family, a 93-year-old mother-in-law, an 82-year-old father, who are all on fixed incomes, have to buy their medicines and do everything that they have to do in order to make ends meet. And so they have been on my mind, just like these other commissioners, for this entire budget process. You see, what we decide here tonight impacts all of you, and it impacts me as well. And by the way, there's some vicious rumors out there that we as county commissioners don't have to pay tax on our property, and I just want you to know that's a lie, a flat-out lie. And the lie that we haven't been transparent about in this budget, I've taken a little bit of exception to, because we addressed this budget process starting really in earnest in March of this year. And those serious talks began, and we took place with those talks and with all of our department heads. We spoke to them individually. We held at least 4 open budget work sessions, April 16th, 17th, 28th, 29th, that were all properly advertised, publicized, and held. And those work sessions began at 4 p.m. each evening, and many times we were here till 10 and 11 o'clock at night. We did that so our staff who were meeting with us could allow us to have a better understanding of their requests and their needs, and so you, the public, could be a part of those important meetings. Some folks chose to show up, others didn't, and it was an interest from a few that were here, and we were so appreciative of that. And by the way, I will say this, we all work full-time jobs here. I was on my job this afternoon until 5 o'clock and rush over here for this meeting. And so I do take it very seriously, especially when I'm giving up nights away from my family to do the county business. But that's what I signed up for, right? And that's what I wanted to be a difference in this community. Again, everyone was invited to be a part of that process, and so we are trying to be as transparent as we could and bring those discussions out to the public so they could be a part of the process. Many keyboard warriors in our land currently have a different opinion, and I just want to say that I truly feel we have been as open as anyone could be. Now, some requests were made, and we had to say no to some of our department heads. Some requests are beyond our control. Health insurance increased, state mandated retirement expenses for our employees, federal tax, Social Security, all the benefits that are required to supply our 587 full-time employees at work for Caldwell County. That's our deputies, our jail staff, our EMS personnel, DSS, Health Department, Board of Elections, libraries, a whole gamut of stuff that people just don't realize what we provide at the county. But it is a numerous amount. And we do have 110 part-time employees that are staffing many things like backfilling our sheriff's office, backfilling EMS, and are staffing our convenience sites. So employees are our #1 asset, and we don't take them for granted here. That's why in this budget we're allowing for the merit pay system to stay in place, and we're funding that at $1.2 million in the coming year. We continue to make those capital purchases with the Sheriff's Department cars, an ambulance, QRVs. We're also purchasing some much-needed equipment in our water department, building inspections, Board of Elections has voting machines, DSS vehicles. So for the first time ever, we're addressing the landfill and its future by putting $600,000 into a capital fund to offset the cost associated with the transportation of our garbage in the future. We have an estimation of about 12 to 15 years capacity left on our landfill, and so we know that that's going to be an issue. Finally, we've committed to continue the funding to our school system. We added $350,000 of debt set off to them, an additional amount that they weren't expecting, as well as $150,000 to the community college. There's been a lot of work that's been done on this budget. I just again want to say thank you to everyone for their efforts. We all remember when we started, we had almost $108 million in requests from our county departments, and we cut that to the number tonight of $105,202,000 in our general fund. Our total budget exceeds $130 million. So that includes our schools and over $10 million of direct funding to our volunteer fire departments in Caldwell County. I might need to say that again, $10 million direct funding to the volunteer fire departments in this county, who, by the way, can't get enough volunteers to come and help. So if you want to do something for our county, go volunteer at the fire department. So at this time, I want to allow my other commissioners to make comments. And our newest commissioner, Mr. Patrick Starnes, I'd like to give him the opportunity to speak first. Sorry, I got a cold.
You know, coming into this, I sort of knew what to expect, but there's a lot of things that went on in this, that goes on in this county that I did not realize that the money come out of taxpayers' pockets. We have done as a group, and like I said, I don't like the numbers no more than anybody else in here, but we have done everything that we know to do to provide the services that the people in Caldwell County need. We could cut more money, but when we do, we're going to be cutting services. And with a taxpayer at hand, which who's ever out here, I don't think that's what none of y'all would want. I know it ain't what I want. And we've just tried to lay this thing out to where things are run smooth, and, you know, we can continue on and try our best to take care of the people in this county. Other than that, I mean, it's been a privilege to go through this, but it's not been an easy process. It's like the chairman said, they've been people we've told no to that I will assure you they didn't like the answer no, but, you know, sometimes you just got to say no. And we're going to continue working on, even though we're going to make a budget, we're going to continue on stabbing at what we can cut and what we can't cut, starting tomorrow. And that's something I've always valued. You know, the value of a dollar means a lot because that's what it takes for us to live. And it's in our hands to try to protect y'all and do the very best we can for y'all. So, being that said, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we set our tax rate at 49.75 cents.
All right. Anybody else like the opportunity to speak this evening?
And I will tell y'all this, based upon that number, I would like to be below revenue neutral, Mr. Sanders. But the whole problem with this is, I mean, we can drop it down to 30 cents, but what's going to happen, we're going to come back in here next year and say, we're going to have to add 25 cents to it to get back to where we're at. And the whole goal is to maintain that number through this whole process of the next 4 years without having to come back to the public, because I will assure you I don't want them to come back to me. I'm done over that hump, and it's just not a good situation for nobody. But like I said, is what the chairman had said, the problem here is where I thought we had control of, the state tells us what we're going to do and what we ain't going to do, and we got to find in the middle of it. And that's where we got to end up at.
All right. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair, I appreciate what you said, some great words, and Commissioner Starnes, very, very eloquent, very good. And each one of them, Commissioner Branch, Commissioner Potter, we did work very hard. And I've been through several of these budgets, and I said it from the beginning, this one was definitely the toughest one that I've had to deal with, especially with the amount of increase. I too, my home went up 68%. My father's home, 85 years old, my mother passed away a couple years ago. He's on a single income, and his property from Joyce and Church Road there in Lenoir city limits, so he's got city taxes and county taxes. His went up 57%. So I get it and I understand. And I understand what's going on out there. I think this is a good budget. I think that we've addressed a lot of needs. We've taken care of public safety. We've taken care of the schools, the college, the lower vehicle taxes, which that will surprise you, that those revenues will drop with the lower vehicle tax. We've kept the merit increase. We don't do COLAs across the board any longer. It's more of a merit-based system. So if you do a good job and an extra good job, then we're going to reward you. And I think the employees appreciate that. Again, the patrol cars, we've talked about it before. We want to provide good public safety for our folks. The ambulances, it's amazing what an ambulance costs you now. And we're actually reboxing one to try and save money. The EDC, the landfill, and infrastructure. The only catch I get with this budget is that I said from the start, from our budget process, I wouldn't go any more than a little bit over revenue neutral, and I'm staying to that. I feel that we can be a little bit better on our tax rate, but I'll respect the wishes of the board this evening, but that's where I'm at. It's a good budget. I just wish I could get there, but I think we can do better. Thank you.
All right. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I will echo everything you said, and Commissioner Starnes and Commissioner LeBrose. I think this will be my 12th budget. And it's been very difficult to try to figure out how we maneuver through this process. It's a very complicated, as Commissioner Starnes mentioned, it's a very complicated process. If the general public only knew, you know about a small portion of what you see, you understand it. It is a very complicated process. When you take in the state and the federal government, all the different avenues that funding comes to us. And overall, I think this is a good budget. I think we've worked hard. I think there was some difficult conversations with some staff. We're going to have some more conversations, like Commissioner Patrick Starnes mentioned. And we're not done yet. I think there's areas that we can continue to look for opportunities to find ways to save money. The one thing I've struggled with is I understand the need to not want to have to deal with the tax increase going forward. The only thing that I don't like about this budget is the fact that we are putting in merit increases, but merit increases is not helping. It's not stopping our problem. It's making an attempt to stop it. But we're one of the lowest, if not the lowest paid counties in the region. Our staff work here because they want to work at home. They want to work close to home. They work here because their families are here. They don't want to leave Caldwell County. That's why they're here. Most of these people, if they had an opportunity, they would leave because our pay is just not up to par. The merit increases help a great deal. They really do. But they don't solve the problem. They're just a solution to the problem, right? We got to peel the onion back and understand how the pay scales work. I was told today that Alexander County did a 12% COLA. I was told that Lincoln County did a 7% COLA. 100% understand how we look at COLAs. While COLAs do reward some underperforming employees, we don't have that many underperforming employees. But what COLA does is it moves our pay ranges. And what happens, our base pay, right? So if you're not proactive with this, it keeps us from being, to be able to recruit. So when you have an opening and we go and you apply, and you advertise for this opening, we don't get applications in because our pay scale is too low. Merit helps the person that is already here, so it does help in the retention part of it, but it don't help in the recruitment piece of it. So while I think this is a solid budget, and I think the commissioners have done a wonderful job and staff's done a wonderful job, that is the only element that I wish we could have done a better piece of, and I hope that we'll continue to look at that. But I, as well as Commissioner LeBrose, I can't support a 49.75% tax rate. I think that's just a little bit too aggressive on the tax rate. I feel like that revenue neutral is giving us about another right around $800,000 of revenue coming in. 49.75 is going to give us about $3.5 million. And I'm hopeful as we move through the process, because I feel like this budget's going to pass tonight. But again, I'm going to be voting against the budget strictly because of tax rate. I'm very happy with the elements of this this budget. I just wish it was a little bit better from taking care of our staff. I've been an advocate for our staff since day one, and I'll continue to be an advocate for our staff. We got to do better, folks. We got to find a way to fix the problem, and we got to be more proactive versus reactive.
Yes, sir.
Well, to your point, Marty, we can raise the taxes to 55%, and then we can give everybody more money. But
We don't need to go to 55.
We're gonna keep it within reason. We're gonna do what we can do to make everybody best we can and pay everybody what we can. A lot of people don't realize we don't bring in as much as a lot of these other counties do that you're comparing us to. So, I think we've all worked hard and everything on this, and I'm ready to pass the budget.
All right. So we've got a motion on the floor to adopt the rate of 49.75. And hearing that, I'll call the question. All in favor signify by raising your hand. And then those opposed, raise your hand. So that's a 3-2 vote. And we thank you again for each one's participation in the process. I will say that it has been a lengthy process, and as Commissioner Potter said, I don't know if it's my 13th, 14th one. I don't know where I'm at. But anyway, it's been the hardest one that we have ever tried to capitalize on, and getting everything within its place. And it is a work in progress too, by the way, because we're going to keep working on it. And maybe next year we can come back and cut that rate. If we see we're doing well, sales tax increases and keeps continuing to come up, for our state legislators, who's going to make it, so much more lucrative for our county. If they'll pass that money on down, we'll sure take it and cut our tax rate.
Hey, and I would want to say that Speaker Hall has done a tremendous job in helping Caldwell County.
Yeah.
We would not be able to afford a lot of the capital that you see around the county. So, Speaker Hall, thank you very much.
Yes.
And he continues to help Caldwell County, and we thank him. It's good to have the Speaker of the House from Caldwell County.
That's right.
Never has happened before. So thank you very much, and we wish you the best in this session in the legislature, and you got your hands full. Thank you very much, sir.
Another thing people don't realize is Google is building again, and that's going to bring, and it's a whole lot better deal for the county this time around.
A little richer for us, yeah.
Yeah, we come out a lot better on the deal this time.
I think too, I was wanting to say something a while ago that I really didn't understand till we sat down and made the budget, that only 41%, is that correct?
That's about right.
Of our property taxes goes towards this budget. That is it. So if we didn't have nothing but property and houses alone, and we didn't get all this other stuff, I reckon I'd have to move.
Well, that tax is unlawful.
Sir?
I said that property tax is unlawful.
Well, I don't.
It's legal, which is legalese. Illegal and legal is legalese. What we should be talking is lawful and unlawful. That's by the Constitution.
I don't say that I disagree with you, sir.
All right. Well, we got to move along in our.
That $600 that y'all gonna take in, what's it gonna do? Sit in a banking account, collect interest?
We're going to move along with our meeting this evening, and our next item on the agenda is approval of our fee schedule and a resolution and for that. So, Mr. Rash.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Commissioner Starnes is right that only, less than half of our budget's made up of property tax. And you would think that is a whole lot more than that. But one of the other very important components to our yearly county budget is, of course, our fee schedule. And there are, for many services provided by the county, there are fees attached to that. Some of those are statutory. They have to be charged. And then others, of course, are ones that have for particular services that we provide. So you do have in your agenda tonight the departmental fee schedule for 2025 and 2026, and that covers for each county department. And our clerk has done a wonderful job putting that together. If there's any questions, we'll be happy to try to answer those for you.
All right. So we've got the fee schedule that's been presented to us, and I did have that one question, I think, for our Board of Elections. You get an answer on that, and we're good there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I just wanted to make sure we didn't mess Chad up on something.
You good?
All right. So having the recommendation, then I'll make a motion that we approve this evening's fee schedule as has been presented by county staff and our interim county manager, Mr. Wayne Rash. And I'll open that up for discussion if there's any discussion or comment. Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that motion carries as well. So that brings us then to our consent agenda, which is pretty lengthy. So
It's a big one.
fasten your seatbelt and hang on.
It is time to, anybody want popcorn or drinks or anything while we get ready? Okay, all kidding aside, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we do have quite a few items, and I'll try to go through them as quickly as we can on the consent agenda. Item number 7 is establishing a capital project ordinance for landfill gas revenue, and that is what that does was set aside a multi-year fund to put in the revenues that you guys just approved in the budget, so that those can accumulate and be used over a period of years for landfill-related needs, specifically with the purpose of accumulating money so that we can handle our disposal of trash after the time of the landfill closure. Number 8 is the fire department revenue budget amendment. And so tonight we have various budget amendments in the current year budget. I know there's some confusion, I think, amongst folks in the public about the next year's budget, which you guys just approved. These are items that would actually clean up this year's budget. And so we're required by law that we have to clean some of these items up, because either in the case of this particular one, number 8, the county collects obviously fire taxes each year, and we remit those to the various fire departments as a pass-through. We budgeted last year less money than what we actually collected. So we were able to collect more money than what was budgeted, and so we have to clean that up through a budget revision but it's a complete pass-through for the county, but it does have to be cleaned up in the budget process. So number 9 is the same thing with the Foothills Regional Airport property taxes. We also collected this year more money than we budgeted for that, so we have to revise the budget, current year's budget upward to allow that pass-through of those funds to the airport. Number 10 is an item of communication salary, overtime, and fringe benefits. Line items those were higher for our department, communications department, than what we budgeted for, and so this is a budget revision that would clean that up also and into that line item. Number 11 is medical examiner funding, and that's something we're required by the state to pay for whenever a medical examiner has to perform an autopsy due to a death in our county. And so the expenses for that ran over what we had budgeted for this particular budget year as well. This revision, $30,000 revision, would clean that up and so that that line item does not overdraw in the current year budget. Number 12, emergency services overtime funding. Overtime expenses for EMS, partially due to Hurricane Helene, partially due to other reasons. Their budget for overtime is over what we budgeted for it to be, and so this budget revision would clean that up as well. Number 13 is a budget revision to allow our Facilities Services Department to use leftover funds in the current budget year to purchase mowing equipment. As part of our new year's budget, we'll move that function, our mowing services, back in-house so that we can save money. And so this budget revision would allow them to use leftover funds from this year's budget to purchase the equipment they'll need to do that. Number 14 is a budget revision for inmate medical expense. Again, another item that went over what we budgeted for this year. Unfortunately, these costs for inmate medical expenses, and we're required by the state to pay for the expenses of our inmates when they have medical expenses. Hard to predict because you don't know who your inmates are going to be or what their medical needs are. And so in this particular case, in talking to the sheriff, this kind of ended up, a lot of this ended up because of one inmate. One inmate, and particular costs associated with that, but would appropriate money from our fund balance to clean up that line item as well. Number 15 is Sheriff's Office undercover vehicle trade-in, using, this is now a compromised undercover vehicle, using this money to, using this trade-in to go toward the purchase of a replacement undercover vehicle to be used in their undercover operations. Number 16 is a budget revision for veteran service to cover some raises and certification increases that were given out at the Veterans Service Department this past year. $9,000 adjustment there to the current year's budget to clean that up. Number 17, Sheriff's Office approval to apply for a grant, and that particular grant would be for the use to replace mobile data terminals in their civil division vehicles. And so there's no, it's a zero match grant, there's no cost to the county, but they do need your approval to apply for that grant. Number 18 is a SMART program debris removal agreement. There was some discussion tonight about debris removal. One of the things, that's been very costly to our county, county funds to pay for the roadside debris and the what's called PPDR, personal property debris removal. And so this particular agreement would move those functions to the state, and the state would take up the cost of those, so the county would not incur additional cost in those. And also, as we begin our waterway debris cleanup, it would cover the cost. The state would take on the cost of that. They would be applying for the reimbursements through FEMA and cover the cost until that time that FEMA it reimburses those. So we need your approval to execute that agreement. And then number 19 is a budget revision for debris removal. Again, another thing to clean up this year's budget. Our costs for hurricane debris removal we've continued to have those costs, and so we need to put money into the budget to be able to expend to pay the bills for those things that have already been incurred. That money, of course, we expect to be 100% reimbursable through FEMA and the state. But however, we do have to wait on those reimbursements. And so this budget revision would allow us to expend those funds while we wait for those reimbursements from FEMA. Number 20 is a revised MOU for opioid settlement funds. This resolution, what we discovered in going back and looking at this is the board approved in November 2024 the position of a recovery court coordinator out of the opioid settlement funds, but it was never authorized, the spending. So this resolution authorizes the spending to pay for that position. So we need to clean that up before the end of this budget year as well. Let's see, number 21, Economic Development Advisory Committee appointments. It is that time of year for those appointments. The Economic Development Advisory Committee recommends the reappointment of 5 individuals: Ronnie Setzer, representing the town of Cages Mountain; Jimmy Harrison from Caldwell County; Mark Transu from First Citizens Bank; Janet Aiken from Aiken Development; John Blair from Skyline Bank; And then there are 2 open industry board seats, and the recommendation is Charles Shell from RPM and Jason Wingate from MDI for those 2 positions. Item number 22 is a resolution lifting the hiring freeze that was put on back in February of this year. Item number 23 is the approval to sell 2 easy carts from our Board of Elections to the Watauga County Board of Elections. Easy carts are not to be confused with Easy Go carts, which are golf carts, and we had that question. If that's
I was
what
trying to figure out why we were selling golf carts.
These are not golf carts. These are basically racks on wheels that are used to transport election equipment. And so those 2, Watauga County has an interest in those, and they're surplus for us. And so this would allow the sale of those to the Watauga County Board of Elections. Item number 24 is approval to advertise Water Department vacant positions. They currently have 3 open field positions. And then item 25 is approval to advertise full-time and part-time library positions. Currently 1 full-time and 1 part-time library assistant positions that are open. And they'd like to fill those, obviously, before the summer rush comes in and their summer reading programs. I'm getting a big nod of the head from our library director there in the back of the room. And number 26 is approval to fill vacant full-time paramedic positions, and this is 2 vacant positions. One is being filled because of a retirement. The other is because of someone that left the agency. So that's would fill those 2 positions. Item 27 is approval of the Village of Cedar Rock fireworks display. This would be their 4th of July display, which I think is going to be on July the 6th. And then item 28 is approval of the Town of Roadhis fireworks display, which I believe is on Flag Day coming up June 14th. That's Flag Day, right?
Yep.
Is that correct?
I think so.
And I know there's a big thing Blue Ridge, Duke Power's doing with the dam that day as well, because it's the 100-year anniversary of the Roadhis Dam, just for folks to know that as well. Item 29, approval of the Tri-County fireworks display, and I believe that is a 4th of July display, but it'll be done on July the 5th, which is the Saturday night for their normal racing takes place. And then item 30, approval of meeting minutes from April the 14th. Item 31, meeting minutes from April 16th. Item 32, April 17th. Those are our budget work sessions. And then item 33 is approval of meeting minutes from May the 12th. And then item 34 is the reappointment of Felicia Wood to the Regional Aging Advisory Committee. And then item 35 is the appointment of Commissioner Mike LaBrose as the voting delegate for this board for the NCACC gathering. And that's not basketball, that is the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, for those who might not know. But not to say Commissioner LaBrose couldn't play basketball for us.
No, he can't.
I'm sure he
I
could.
can't. No, it ain't happening.
And then the final 2 items are those that, let's see, what did I do with those? Here we go. Items 36, which is the setting aside the one-time appropriation to the community college out of the that sales tax reinvestment fund in the amount of $150,000. And then item 37, which is the termination of a memorandum of understanding between Integrated Care of Greater Hickory Incorporated and Caldwell County. It was an agreement that this board entered into back in 2023 to provide services. Commissioner Potter can probably speak more to this if there are questions about it, but they provide, supposed to provide certain recovery services and those types of things for people in this county. They're currently not, there are no citizens in our county that are being helped by that particular program. They do have space in our health department, and so we're going to, the recommendation is to terminate that agreement.
Yeah, we, just to give you a little heads up on that, we did this MOU for them to come in and provide substance abuse treatment and take referrals, but they've never done what they said they were going to do. In fact, currently, there's nobody in Caldwell County being served, and I found this out fairly recently. And they're in there working, but they're serving via conference calls and Zoom calls citizens across other parts of the region. in using our space. So we are currently, I'm currently working with another organization, hope to maybe have a different person to put in there come our July meeting. But right now, they're not serving our needs, and we can do better.
Is that not what a restart does, sort of?
Well, they don't do the actual work. The restart's doing the referral. These are the people who, boots on the, they're actually doing the treatment, the physical treatment.
Okay.
So,
All right. So, hearing all the recommendations, I would,
I'd like to talk something about this, if you don't care.
the
Mr.
floor is
Chairman?
yours, Commissioner
Mister,
Range.
I'm gonna tell you, I have really got some heartburn here with Emergency Services Director on this. I mean, when they come in under communications and had $220,000 worth of overtime hours, and then on just emergency services, they had $571,000 worth of overtime hours. To me, there's got to be some gross mismanagement going on somewhere for this kind of stuff to happen. I think Tony had even sent them a letter part of the way through the year, and nothing, it seemed like nothing got changed or it got worse. So, you know, I'm gonna make a recommendation that we cut at least $300,000 out of EMS's budget and make Trevor Key just over EMS and see if he can manage that, because right now he's not doing a damn good job at this. Because this is $750,000 in just overtime hours. That's not acceptable to me, and I don't think it's acceptable to anybody up here, is it? I mean, how can you justify that? So I'm gonna make a motion that we take $300,000 out of emergency management budget and let them learn how to manage, and just pay Trevor Key over EMS.
So take it out of the EMS budget.
Out of the EMS
Yep.
budget this year.
Mr. Meisenheimer might have a heart attack. You take $300,000 out of emergency management.
No.
That's
I
more
was
than his
talking
whole
about
budget.
Out of the,
so do we need to
Out of the EMS
pull that from the
budget.
consent agenda? I don't know.
And do you need to separate the?
Yeah, let's do
funding
that.
And the position?
Yeah.
Is that what you would separate the funding and the position? Keep
Yeah,
them
it's two
separate?
different motions.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's remove, what item is that?
12.
12.
Item 12, the emergency services overtime funding. We'll take, I guess we need a motion to remove item 12 from the consent agenda, and then a motion to accept the consent agenda as has been approved. So I'll make that motion that we remove item 12, the emergency services overtime funding, from the consent agenda, and that we approve the remainder of the consent agenda. Does that make
I'll second.
sense? All right. So all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that motion carries. And then that brings us to a discussion that we're adding to our agenda this evening about the emergency services overtime funding. And Commissioner Branch, if you'd like to restate your comment or your motion again, then we can vote on that motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we delete take away $300,000 out of the EMS budget this fiscal year and let them learn how to try to manage money.
All right, so hearing that motion, any other discussion or comment?
I would just ask County Manager, what kind of thoughts do you have to kind of put in place to take care of this, to help EMS and other departments? I mean, it's just not EMS, but what would you think would be helpful to help them do that?
Thank you for the question, Commissioner LaBrose. I think certainly, and I've talked to Tony and others about it, I think we, as staff, I think we can watch Obviously, what departments are doing them closer, and I'm not here to throw shade on, on what might have been done in the past or not done in the past, but I certainly think, as long as I serve in the interim role, and I know, like I said, Tony is committed to helping with this, that we provide you all a monthly report about where we are on the budget, department, by department, if you wanted that closely. And what we can see then at that point is, where are we starting to have problems with, and see them a long time before they get to this point and start developing. Then we can look at those things and we can make adjustments as we need to along the way. Certainly think that would hopefully keep us from getting in this type of position again. As far as specific recommendations for this department, I think, the chairman and myself and others, I think, are committed to sit down with EMS and look at strategies for how we cut down on overtime hours. I think as we all look at this, it's certainly a problem. This is not the first year it's been a problem. It's been a problem.
Well, this has happened several years in a row, same thing.
This is the biggest one, though.
Right, and so I think last year was maybe close to the same, right, Tony? But there were other areas they were able to take it from. So you're correct in saying this is the largest amount to come back before you guys. Am I correct in saying that, Tony? Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we'd like for you to come over.
Yeah,
speak.
help us out here.
Hey, just a couple things I want to make sure that's clear in case it's not. The budget revision that was item 12, that's for the year that we're in. That was to increase the budget for this year that we're getting ready to end at the end of June. That budget will overdraw and we will overspend. We've already overspent, and when the June payroll takes place, we will further overspend. So if we do not adjust our budget to allow for that, then when the auditors come, they'll see that we've overdrawn our budget, and that's going to be an audit finding. So I would encourage you to approve that money, since it's too late to not spend it. We got to pay people what they've worked. So that's one thing I wanted to make sure you understood.
Well, that wasn't what we were saying. I'm saying take it out of next
Right.
year's budget.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, we've removed it, so we'll have to go back and approve that.
Right.
Yes, sir. So thank you
Because
for
the
clarifying this.
cat's out of the bag at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
The other part, just a question for the attorney, really. Once you've approved a budget, can you amend it this quickly, or does it have to be in the July meeting? 'Cause
As a general matter, you just have a new budget amendment ordinance that can be adopted
Okay.
with a simple majority.
Okay.
I frankly never had one amended this quickly.
Right.
So 20 minutes is probably a record for amendments. So
Yeah.
Leave it to us.
give me a second and let me just confirm that. But I think, as a general matter, it can be amended at the meeting that it's put forth as to an amendment. Now, the only question that is, I know there's some procedural requirements got to be followed for the budget ordinance itself that you adopted today. It's got to be posted and all after they adopt it finally. So
Right.
let me take a look at the statute real quick. But
I'm thinking I remember from my classes that once you pass a budget, you can't amend it until the new year begins, but I could be wrong.
yeah, I don't think that's the case. And the other option the board has, I assume none of the funds that, let's see, we're in June now. Certainly not all of the funds that y'all appropriated to that fund are going to be spent before your next meeting. And it may be that, to give you some time to take a look at that, and me some time to take a look, you take this up in July, but that's up to y'all. Obviously, they're not going to spend the whole amount.
I don't want to take it up no later than that day.
If you give me a second to look there.
The other thing, just going back to what Wayne said a few minutes ago about our reporting, I send you the key indicator report every month, and I could add another page to that shows the salary information. It could show overtime and salaries. I could show you each department's budget, and I could show you what 1/12 of that is, and then what's been spent that month, and it would help you stay on top of it. That's the thing I regret the most in this whole process is we didn't.
Well, this was a surprise, but to most of us, I think.
Yeah, I wish we had done that differently.
I think that'd be a great idea.
Yeah.
We could certainly do
And
that.
I will say this, I got to think about how I want to say this. I don't want to place all the blame on Trevor, because I think, at the end of the day, Trevor's a young manager, new manager. inexperienced, and we as a group need to be more aware of what's taking place in that particular area. And I'm okay with trying to figure out a way to solve the problem. I think one of my biggest concerns is if we pull too much, I don't want us to get to a point where we're taking trucks down because they're too worried about overtime. You know, I hope we don't get to that point. So I don't know whether it be you or maybe Jimmy or somebody really needs to stay close to this, because I don't want to put a citizen at risk because, you know, somebody misunderstands, because you know how communication is, right? Time it gets down the bottom of the chain, no overtime, you know, and then next thing you know, you got taking trucks off the road. So we got to be really careful how we work through this. And I'm 100% agreeable that we got to fix it, get it under control. I just want to make sure we are careful how we do that.
A couple of things that contributed to it, just for clarity's sake, we shifted a good chunk of our employees away from a 12-hour shift schedule to a 24-hour shift schedule. And the way that works out, on the 24-hour shifts, you work more overtime hours than you do on the 12-hour shifts. So to make the same salary on the 24-hour shifts, you would make less per hour than you do on the 12-hour shifts. But when we made that change, we didn't lower anybody's hourly rate. So in effect, everybody who went back to the 24s got a raise. And that's a factor in this overdraw. Now, certainly it's not the main factor, but it's part of it.
$750,000.
No, we're not, clearly.
Well, and
The other thing is that the budget that we're working with this year was developed by the previous director. The new manager was certainly aware of the budget, and I had discussed with him that it was in trouble, but it's not a budget he developed. So in my mind, that sort of gives him, not a free pass, but it gives you some understanding as to why he's struggling with it. It's not a budget that he developed. I think there was some confusion last year because we had expanded to where we were going to provide service at Blowing Rock Fire Department, and there was supposed to be extra staff included in the budget for that, and I don't think that got included. So that, not saying there's not area to be concerned, there certainly is, and we do need to do what we can to fix this, but it's not as egregious as maybe it sounds on the front end, because there are some factors that mitigate it. However,
Maybe with us making him just over EMS, he'll have time to maybe do some of this and stuff, because right now we can't go like this every year. Every year it comes in like this. I mean, just outrageous, over more and more. I mean, you can't, there got to be a stop to it sometime or another.
Do we get any of this money reimbursed back, the overtime you're talking about for the storm stuff? Do we know how much of that's going, because that's going to mitigate some of it, right?
Well, we pulled some of that out and coded it to the project.
So this dollar amount don't include that?
Yeah, that money's already been taken out.
Okay.
Suzette Bradshaw's been our person who's helping us with that, and we have pulled back. I don't have the exact number, but it's several thousands, maybe up to maybe 100,000 we've pulled out of this budget and put in under the Helene project.
Okay. So. And we've pulled all the remaining money in EMS budget to offset some of this cost?
Yes.
Okay. So there was nothing left.
This is what was needed after that process was
Okay.
finished, unfortunately.
I personally don't, it's not, you know, just like you said, it's not right now, and who's a manager is not, I don't think the issue was there. I don't think personally that, you know, he's done the best he could, but the whole issue is it's just something we got to deal with and figure out what to do.
Yeah.
And move forward.
Yeah.
I don't think, you know, I don't know about Mr. Branch, but I mean, I'm not personally mad at anybody.
No.
But we got to address this.
Yeah, I agree with you.
yeah, I think we all feel
Something's
that.
got to be done. And if he can't manage the whole thing, maybe he can make, and I really personally, if you cost me $750,000 in a business, you'll be lucky to have a job, I think. Really. In the business world, he wouldn't have a job. We'll give, I think it's gracious to just let him look over EMS.
Well, I'll echo the thoughts of the concern, definitely there, and I think allowing Trevor to be looking specifically at EMS is probably going to benefit him more. Another thing, though, and I think we've got to get HR involved in this, because I never knew this, but I was talking with Trevor about all this, and there's something about exempted employees and status of employees, and EMS employees are not in that category like our sheriff deputies are, as an example. They can work their shifts, and I think they're on a work week of 56 hours or 112 hours every 2 weeks. Our EMS are not there, and anything over 40 hours in a week, they get paid overtime on. And that may be something legislatively we want to talk about someday, to move them into that same category with our law enforcement, jail staff, communications. I mean, the whole gamut. But EMS is standing on their own, and anything they work over 40-hour work week. Well, they work 2 shifts in a week. That's 48 hours. So every week they're getting 8 hours overtime.
That's a good point.
And that mounts up when you have 50-some employees, 60 doing that. So anyway, just some things that we got to look at as we address that.
One thing that we noticed while we were doing some research to try to figure out what went wrong, the overtime is concentrated in a relatively small number of employees. You have a handful that are getting a tremendous amount of overtime. Everybody would get some overtime because it's built into their shift structure. If you just work your shift and never come in any extra, you're going to get some overtime. But there's 5 to 10 people that are getting a whole lot. I don't know if these people are more highly paid by the hour than some of the other people, but it seems likely. So that might be an area to attack it, is to try to find a way to spread that out, use more part-time
I'll
people.
say even with this 24/72 rotation, you could pick up an extra shift pretty regularly and not burn yourself out. So some of my fellow firefighters that are over there could certainly agree with that concept, because you could pick up that extra shift. And that's 24 straight hours of overtime when you do that.
Right.
So, and I'm sure we got some doing that. So,
Well, I do think there's some administrative things that we can put in place, some policy and stuff from a division standpoint that can help with some of this. I mean, I don't think there's one silver bullet that's going to fix it. I think it's going to be a multitude of things that gets it corrected. So that's just.
But the bottom line comes to us, and we're pissing away county people's money by this, letting this
well, I
happen.
mean, you think about it, $700,000-800,000 right there. That's a penny on the tax.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost.
It's a penny.
Yeah.
That's a penny on just overtime.
So that's what's driving our tax,
I believe the EMS was $425,000.
right?
Well, that
But you
was-
throw the communications in
Right.
there, throw another 220.
Well, it was really 571, and you pulled out enough to make it 420 out of it.
Yeah.
Talking about where we move money around from other places, yeah.
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 The communications is an issue too. I don't know how much of that is at Trevor's feet, but the guy who's running that department's no longer here.
That director's no longer with us either.
Yeah, I mean,
I
I feel
think we
like
solved that problem.
you may have addressed that one already.
I think we fixed that problem.
So,
I think what y'all got to remember is there's 5 of us sitting up here. If you want to change something, then it's going to take us 5 to change it. That's what we're sitting at this table for. I'm not sitting up here to look pretty.
Well, that's a
all
fact.
heck.
If we're going to address it, I mean, you
Yes,
got to
sir.
address it. You can't tiptoe around it.
Right.
I think we're all in trouble if that's what we're trying to do here.
I've done the best
you
I
tried
could
to
do
say.
tonight.
Yeah, I'll put on a code, but that's about it.
Yeah. All right. So we need to go back and approve the budget revision of item 12 on the consent agenda. That would allow our budget to be cleaned up in the amount of, what was that amount, 425?
No.
Yeah.
Or was it?
Mr. Chairman, let me
Maybe-
ask you a
maybe it
question.
was.
Yes,
Don't
sir.
mean to interrupt you,
Yeah,
but did
it
we
was.
actually approve the consent agenda?
We did approve the
Okay.
consent
All right.
agenda, but we removed item 12,
That's right, we did it after
which is the overtime funding.
We just need to approve that one.
425. So I'll make a motion that we approve item 12 from the consent agenda in the amount of $425,000 for the overtime funding, so we can clean up our 24-25 budget. So any other discussion or comment there? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that motion carries. And then we're still checking on making a budget revision from our county attorney down there.
Why don't we put this off till July?
No, let's get it
You know-
done. I want to get it done
Okay.
tonight. If
I
we
want to give him
possibly.
time
As,
to look it
well,
over.
let's, while he's checking, let's go ahead and take care of the position
Yeah,
of, you know, what you suggested for Trevor, I guess the fire marshal and emergency management just split.
just let them stand on their own. You
Yeah.
know, we already got somebody looking after them. I mean, they just report to Trevor, so.
Well, let me ask y'all this, do we need a motion, or is that more of a structural, internal structural change? Does it have to be a motion from us? Because, I mean, we're just changing the internal structure. Does that require a vote from us to do that? Or can we give him direction?
We can have 1 second, Mr. Mayor.
I think we can task our manager to do that.
That's what I'm thinking too.
I think
And
you're
we do it
correct.
on I mean, I feel like we do it on a temporary basis until we get our arms around
Yeah,
it.
and there's no salary changes or anything.
No.
Nothing, no changes or anything.
We just do it on a kind of a temporary to the end of the year and whatever.
Well, there may be some savings by doing that because
Huh?
there may be some savings by doing that because during the current year, we had Bummy's old position and Trevor's
Right.
position. If you're making Trevor's position Bummy's old position, then you'd eliminate one
That's right.
Just
position.
eliminating the
You
position.
So there may be a savings there. I can,
I don't know that I want to eliminate it right now. I think it's more of a, we give county manager direction to move forward with, you know,
well, if you hold off on filling it, you'll save money until you do.
right,
So-
correct, yeah.
So that would be a benefit.
You got some comment, Doc? So in your role, tell us your role and why you're interested in this particular.
Hey guys, Garrett Snyder. I'm the medical director, so I'm the one guarding the guardians. You know, I can't really speak to the specific budgetary stuff. I can tell you that the FLSA exemption for firefighters and law enforcement is a 207K exemption. In prior life, I used to do Trevor's job in a different state, so that's a federal law. It'd be very difficult, I think, to change that long term. You know, the reason I stepped up here is before we took a cleaver to this, and I know, you know, Commissioner Church knows this, and I know Donnie does as well. We run a pretty lean department. I'll tell you that, as serving in fire and rescue in 2 other states and county government as well, and then coming here to North Carolina. And I know it's super frustrating. You have this happen every year. And I get it. I mean, I really do. I understand the position you guys are in too as county commissioners. But I will tell you, as someone who has to watch it and has been watching it for a couple of years now, we have a almost dangerously lean EMS service. And there are things that were taken out of this budget this year to try to cut that were specifically requested by me due to actual concerns about our ability to even supervise certain elements of this department. I think if we get too lean, you're going to have a sentinel event in this county within 1 to 2 years, someone dying or being severely injured. We're just already, it's difficult to supervise it the way we need to. And I get it. I totally understand the concern, but before we take a cleaver to it, before we go to this budget and take out $300,000 or $400,000 next year, I don't know that it's there. And I know that we were talking earlier about saying no to people. I mean, I was one of those people where there had to be no this year as far as a requested line item that I think was super important for the safety of the citizens of Caldwell County. And I just don't know. I don't know there's a lot more there. Just as someone who has seen it in another state, has been in this county now for almost 4 years, I think they do a pretty good job. I think your paramedics do an excellent job of doing it with, like Commissioner Potter said, I think the fruit of the poisonous tree here is what we've been doing for so many years with salaries and the difficulty in recruiting paramedics who want to stay here and keeping talent. And I think it's also important to remember, too, that you guys have an extremely sophisticated EMS system for your size, which is a point of pride. It's the reason I came here. You know, I always tell people the story. I didn't come here having been from the area. I came here because I wanted to be in a place which was rural EMS that was progressive, and Dr. McClinton had worked very hard to do that. You're one of only a few counties that are doing whole blood for their citizens, one of the few that do rapid sequence intubation, and whose paramedics practice at what I would describe a broad element of the full scope of paramedicine. And that's difficult, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to keep that scope, including some of our special programs like things like community paramedicine and Restart. Because to be very frank, we do not have an extremely sophisticated supervisory structure around the care they provide. I expressed this concern last year with Donald. I know we had a meeting. Commissioner Church was there. And I think the reality of it is that just going broad at this budget and trying to take back that money would be very difficult and potentially dangerous, even though I completely understand the concern that this continues to happen. But I do think if you were to pull it out, my understanding of it, it comes back to our broad staffing issues. It comes back to the fact that we pay less than the majority of counties around us, that our paramedics filter out through attrition to other services. And to Trevor's credit, and to you guys' credit as well, and the approvals you made and the changes to the scheduling, that was a huge stopgap in stopping that. I mean, there was a point a couple months ago, I mean, almost a year ago when we first went through this, where I was having the very serious discussion of coming to you and starting to pull services, things that we weren't even capable of doing anymore, things like rapid sequence intubation, whole blood. That was a really real possibility because we were losing so much, clinical knowledge and expertise among our paramedics as they left and went other places, that it was getting to the point where most of my paramedics were well under sub 5 years of experience. And I have to look at it as the medical director when we're approving things and go, can we safely affect these types of treatments? Can they be done by the paramedic and the talent pool that we have right now? And what we were coming to the conclusion of slowly was that that was potentially not possible. And that bleeding was stopped. And again, a lot of credit to you guys for making that decision, and for, I think, Trevor for moving to the 24-hour schedule, because it was a big part of that. And I think, as Tony has said, a lot of the problems we're having are from that move. And don't get me wrong, every part of every service can do better. And I think there's a definite desire inside the service to do that. But I just don't know, just based on what I'm seeing, I'm telling you, just as the advisor, the person who sits and watches it, that there's a lot more room. And I do think, if we cut too much, we're getting in a position again, as Commissioner Potter said, in a couple of years, we're going to lose prized programs because we're not going to have a choice. And that includes maybe after the loss of a citizen. And I don't say that to be scary. I say it because it's something I'm really worried about long term.
But we can always go back and add money. But right now, it's just like nobody knows where until it shows up at the end of the year, and here's $500,000 or $750,000. You're talking about paramedics, good paramedics, but we're talking about overtime and mismanagement's what we're talking about.
Commissioner Branch, I totally understand. To be honest, I don't want to pretend that I can speak to overtime budget. That's not my role, and it's not something I do inside the department. Really, I'm here to make sure the medicine's good. And I get it. I do get where you're coming from. I'm just saying that if we just broadly pull from a budget that I think already we've made some compromises on this year, particularly around things like appropriate supervision and surveillance of our system, that we're in danger territory.
We can always go back and add if we see they're doing better and they want something. It's really important.
I guess
I think we need to send a message to them too. It's got out of hand.
I guess my other question too is my understanding, and I was just speaking to the staff in the back, is the idea would be to separate, you have essentially 3 separate directors. Is that the proposal that's you'd have an EMS, emergency services, and then communications? Is that the kind of broad fire marshal? Yeah.
Communications is under the sheriff.
Yeah.
But it would be emergency management, EMS, and fire.
Yeah.
To help Trevor concentrate more on the EMS and the structure.
So he would just be the EMS director. There would be no emergency services director any longer.
No. Well, it would be Vic back there.
Well, he's emergency management.
Emergency management, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we would just separate those out. And it's the structure we used to have, I think, until former Commissioner Wilkie got appointed in that position first, so.
And that could be just temporary.
Yeah, we've just got to get a handle on the expenses.
Yeah.
That's where we're at.
Yeah. Again, I see my role is to throw up a red flag.
Right.
That, and I want to be clear, a suit in some of these things would dwarf this budget.
Oh, absolutely.
A $20 million or more lawsuit is possible if one of these paramedics makes a really critical error in some of these areas, if the surveillance is not there. A certain amount of, qualified immunity is definitely given to the county. But I think, and Mr. Hall can tell you, there's only so far that goes. And the biggest thing is that we have a duty, really, I have a duty, is to supervise.
Yeah.
And our biggest area where we could be, really open as a county is in a failure to supervise these paramedics, which I think we're already doing in a very lean fashion already. And so I think not just only messing with the supervisory structure too much, but also just taking a hacksaw to the budget would be potentially dangerous. And that's just my one thing I wanted to add.
Yeah. Let me say this, and I don't mean to make anybody angry by saying this, but this year we asked Trevor to manage a budget prepared by Dino, okay? And that didn't go well, okay? This year Trevor submitted his own budget, and the budget he gave us is what he says he needs. If you hold him accountable to that budget, he doesn't have any out. He has to meet the numbers he said he could meet. If you go in and you cut his budget right now, you're giving him an automatic excuse. I can't meet that budget because I asked for $400,000 more and you told me no right out of the gate. So I don't know, if your goal is to hold him accountable, I don't know this is the best strategy. I don't disagree with the idea we need to get control of this, and I'll take some responsibility for it. I seen this happening back in November, December, and I didn't let y'all know. I should have. I did let management know at the time, but I should have just made sure you knew too. I didn't want to overstep my position at that time, but going forward, we can certainly make sure you know, and we can add that to that report, and not just them, every department in the county. We can show you their salary budget, what they've spent, how much they got left. I can project it out. If they keep spending at this rate, by the end of the year, they'll either be upside down or they'll have money left over. So that's just my thought. I'm not against what you're saying. I don't like this either. I don't like us going over budget. I feel personally that's kind of a failure on my part anytime we go over budget, because that's part of my job is to make sure that don't happen. So,
I can see going over budget a few $1,000s here or there, that's something, but this, ain't no excuse.
What did he budget 25, 26, this current budget?
Let me get a look.
You want to say something?
You got it.
Okay, come on.
Yeah.
Come on up, Jeffrey. You're his arm and extension here this evening.
You're on the hot seat.
Oh,
Yeah.
Gentlemen, I want to get you this.
We love throwing you in the hot seat, Jeff.
This is that letter that he sent us, ain't it?
Yeah. First of all, two things. I want to address the emergency services part of it, and then quickly, and then I'll get to the overtime. So I've been in the business 45 years, so I feel like I can pretty honestly comment on how emergency services, fire, EMS, rescue work in this state. I'm very proud of our agency, extremely proud. We have some very, very good people. They're hard, dedicated, working people. The key to keep it emergency services. We all support each other during critical times. If it's a critical time for EMS, every one of us is at least an EMT basic. So we're on trucks, we're making sure we're doing lift assistance, we're supporting each other. If it's something that's heavy EMS is supporting us. If it's heavy fire marshal, we're all working together and supporting us. That's why that I think that concept is very clear, and I think you can look at any other county that has emergency services concept that works much better. That's point number one, that I'm making. This is not argumentative, it's just my point. And also, number two, we talk about, and I'm leading to the most important point, is since February 1st, we have been without a true EMS section chief, EMS director, that is that's their total concentration, was to concentrating on the actual running of the EMS, and then Trevor's job or any other emergency services director was the overall manager of it all. And because of hiring freezes, because of lapsed salary, and a lot of things, rightly so, that happens in government all the time. And I believe during some of the budget hearings, and I think Commissioner Starnes actually did bring it up, and they talked about that after the initial one, well, maybe we need to reinstate that job. So that's something right there to think about, is reinstate that job and allow it to be hired, go through the hiring process just like we would anybody else. Now, that's not, and you say, well, you're just adding another job. Well, the thing about it is that job was always there. That job had been there for almost 10 years, okay? Now, the main point, and there's all this memo, and I'm certainly not going to read every word of it. And we were concerned that this was not being addressed. Well, it has. So on the second page, and it starts additionally, and it talks about, the budget planning, how we discovered the positions and all that. That has a lot to do, Commissioner Branch, of us being, lack for a better word, a few $1,000s over budget up to a whole lot of $1,000s over budget. And since I think that, and I'm going to speak up for Tony, because I know Tony, Wayne, and even before Wayne, with Donald, it was stressed strongly that this started being addressed. Now, how that was addressed, basically, there was guidelines put in place that hey, look, you can't get but so much overtime. You cannot get it. You absolutely can't. We're going to have to work hard with our part-time staff to keep from that happen. Now, and it's a real tough balance, because one of the things we don't want is to brown out trucks. That is something we don't want to do. Last night, prime example last night, a lot of times statistical data will tell you that on Sundays is a lower call volume day. We had 2 major calls going on at the same time. We had the thing over at the meat packing, and then we had the truck going into RPM finishing. And the EMS was crazy. Myself, Vic, and others was out working last night about midnight. I actually went and done a lift to see us because Lenoir Fire was so tied up. And my whole thing is to each and every one of you, guys, we have not sat and allowed this to go crazy. Now, yes, it is way too much, and you're exactly right. It's just, we need to address this even harder, but it's not like since early in this month, early in the year, that we didn't start addressing this aggressively. And if you read the whole paper, now, as Tony said, it looks much worse than it actually is. So that is my take, gentlemen. I'm going to stand behind my boss. I always have.
If I'm reading this correctly, if I understand it, but there was only $53,143.75 that was accredited to overtime.
That's correct. And
so the other problems were
the CPA to allow more on that, Commissioner.
So the biggest issue looks like it was from salary and holiday pay.
Correct.
That's because we didn't account for it in the budget.
In the budget that he now, by no means am I throwing no one under the bus. In the budget that he inherited.
Right. So when we shifted from 24 to 72, we didn't put in the additional overtime that was built into that, nor did we put in the merit increases or the holiday pay that was included in that.
That's correct, Mr. Potter.
And then we didn't account for 2 positions that went to Blowing Rock. We didn't account for those in the budget. So they've been added, plus the retirement and the fringe benefits of that. So that's what created the total shortfall. So the overtime is not that bad.
Well, mismanagement is for it to come in here at $750,000.
No, I don't disagree with that.
Tommy, how much was the exact overtime?
This year? 53,143.75. If I'm reading that right.
I got a few numbers for you, but let me make sure I understand your question though. What was the overtime for?
Jeff's reading off 400 some thousand, 500 some thousand.
It was 571,000 or something like that.
What,
542.
what is the actual,
That was just in the EMS, that wasn't counting communication.
Let me give you this, that may answer your question. For the current year, through the month of May, we have spent $1,231,472.29 on overtime at EMS. That's probably gonna go, well, I know it's gonna go up in June. The most recent month of May, we spent, looks like 56,000. It seems low, but, more than $1,231,000, let's say it's probably gonna be $1,300,000 time the year's over. His budget request for next year has asked for an overtime line item of $1,188,555. So if you give him the budget he has requested, he's gonna have to beat this year's numbers by $120,000 or so to make this budget. So, you know, I think, you know, he's not here to speak for it, but it appears that he has budgeted it at a lower amount than this year because he feels like he's going to get a handle on it and reduce it.
That is correct. That's, that is indicated.
How much of that, how much of that million, that, what'd you say it was, one that we spent so far this year?
$1,231,000.
How much of that $1,200,000 is built in overtime? Do we know?
I don't know the answer to that.
Because there's a big chunk's gonna be built into it. It's just, it's not, even though it's overtime, it's just the normal shift.
Commissioner Potter, there's some people, the way working the 24/72 can come out really good and never work an extra shift just because of the way holidays will fall.
Right.
My biggest concern looking at this is the fact that there's about 5 people who are getting the lion's share of the overtime. There's one fellow that's gonna make 6 figures this year as a paramedic. I think that's a big part of the problem.
well, and that's like, I can't speak to that, but that's like Mr. Branch said to me, I don't know what the problem is. I mean, I'm not out there, but that could be managed a little bit better. Even if it's gonna be that much, that should be shared with somebody else.
Well, I think if this, I don't know it for a fact, but I suspect that this person who's making that much is one of the people that have been there a long time, probably good at their job, dependable. And because of that, they're making pretty good money per hour. And if you were to give some of that overtime to people who are not quite as, you know, there long and making less per hour, then your total costs are gonna come down. So that'd be one way to diffuse some of this.
Well, I also think that, and some of the EMS folks, Jeff, you can probably speak to this. I think what happens is people call in sick, people call in, take time off, whatever it is, and then they go to part-time. They can't find a part-time person. They don't step up, then they have to go to a full-time person. So what I see, and I don't know if it's been corrected, but what I've seen in the past is them letting 4 and 5 people off of one shift and having to backfill with full-time people. And that just runs that cost up.
Well, the policy only allows 3. However, there's always sickness.
Is that recent?
I think just 3.
Okay.
I think it's
I know
just
there's-
3. No, that, you don't mean, but something that's a positive and something can always, you know, is we're about 57% female. Well, females are their mothers. And how many times, you know,
Happens a
at
lot.
12 midnight, everything's fine, and that lady's gonna be there ready to work her shift, and then at 4 a.m., you know, there's that young child, and
Mama, I threw
there,
up.
you know, there we are.
Yeah, Mama, I threw up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
And-
I've been there.
I mean, and there's just, you know, there's a lot of intangibles now.
Yeah.
And our call volume, our call volume is just, you know, it's very high. We have some employees, and we talk about why some has a lot of hours. We got some employees, they want to work their 24, and they want to go home, and they don't want to work anymore. And then you've got some, but then also too, if I'm a supervisor, and the last shift, we got hammered, then I certainly don't want to, I want to do my best to not brown out any trucks.
Right.
And you know, sometimes that's When you look at the pools, especially on holidays, this time of year is the worst. When it starts getting sunny, when it starts getting nice, people wants to do things, and then you've got that select few that you can always count on, and it's a very happy medium that you come up with. We didn't brown out a truck. So here is, I think, is a good example or a good measuring stick of when that we are aggressively trying to manage this, is when you've got employees that were used to getting a lot of overtime, used to getting things, and when you hear them say, well, I just don't like the way things are doing. I don't get as much overtime as I used to. Well, rightly so, because we're trying to manage it. Now, for me, to my pocketbook, I'm probably going to be negative. Now, certainly that's not me, but I think that's a great indicator that not only Trevor, the captains, and a lot of the rest of the EMS staff is doing their dead level best to manage this the best they can. Because a lot of them, because they know that, they see me up here addressing y'all. And I said, well, guys, you've never been in our footsteps. Our footsteps is really tough. We got to maintain a credible, really good service, but then we also got to stay under budget for your tax money, my tax money, and all the rest of the tax money. And it's a very, very challenging, balancing situation. It is, because, there's all kind of reasons for it. My take.
So here's where I'm at, because we could talk about this all night. Here's where I'm at, and I'll let y'all figure it out, the rest of it. What I'd like to do is I don't know that we need to cut the budget. I came in thinking one thing, and I'm going to change my mind. I have that prerogative. What I'd like to do is we set a date at the September meeting that Trevor, whoever else, y'all, whoever you want us involved, whoever you want to be involved, that you come back to us in September with a plan of what that plan looks like. If you can come back earlier, that's fine. Show us a plan on what the plan is to reduce overtime, what kind of policies have we changed, what kind of structure are we going to put in place, and let's give him a chance to fix it. I go back to, again, he don't know what he don't know, and I don't think, when you look at, he ain't the only one that's got some fault in this, fellas. He's not. Tony's already admitted some. He can do better. We can all do better. I think we put we put some hiring freezes in place. We've done some things that might have created some of this from a focus standpoint, that we've not been able to, we've not given him tools maybe that he needs in order to monitor that closely. Not having somebody in that seat from an EMS chief standpoint could be a little bit of a hindrance. There's not nobody watching it every day because he's doing other stuff, right? So I'd like to at least take a breath. Let's give him a chance to fix it.
He come in here and said he would take care of this. Called me up and said, we're going to change everything. We're going to fix everything. I got ain't a thing fixed. We're under his watch, we're $750,000 in the hole. A penny on the taxpayer's money.
100% agree that it needs to be fixed, but we got to, I think tonight's conversation.
That's just unacceptable to the taxpayers for me to think it. We're just going to say, oh, no, you're good, don't worry about it.
I just don't want to run a risk of somebody not getting the service they deserve.
I don't personally think it's about the service, and I think that's where we've got offline here. None of us wants to see the service drop.
Yeah.
If anything, it needs to pick up. But on the other side of the spectrum too, at what price does the taxpayer
I get it.
pay
for incompetence?
Well, I wouldn't say that. I'd just say we got to get a handle on what's going on, and the question is, how do you want to do it?
Right. But my point is, it's not all Trevor's fault. And we're putting this burden on Trevor, and I don't know that it's all his fault. So.
I think it's all stirred back with the Lacey County manager, and I'm going to leave it at that.
So we don't need to bury him for, and I know what you're saying.
So what's your suggestion? What would you say to do?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of people's got different opinions, but I will say this. I couldn't afford in the business I run to have lost $750,000. or I'd be out of business because I was looking at myself. But here we're sitting here in front of the taxpayers in Caldwell County to do the right thing. You know, the bottom line, and I'm not against anybody here, but that's a lot of money. I mean, I'll just tell you, I don't know what the fix is, but it needs to be fixed at some way, somehow. And like I said, we can't leave it all up to them. We're looking at us here at the table, and you're gonna have to get involved. If you wanna fix it, you're gonna have to get involved. And that's just the bottom line. But it's like I've said before, you can't be scared to say no.
Correct.
I mean, because you're not hindering yourself, you're hindering the people out here.
And you know, a few minutes ago, you said a penny brought in $800,000. Right here,
So,
one
so
whole
what is
year
your
on the
suggestion?
tax.
What do you want, what do you think we should do with it?
I mean, it ain't a matter, and I understand what the doctor said, wherever he was at, of taking money away. You know, my theory in life, and I was always told, you know, the more you make, the more you spend. The more you got, the more you're spending. Now, that compromise is gonna have to come somewhere along the line that, you know, this just ain't an open pocketbook, and I understand that. And I will tell you, Jeff, we don't want no ambulances shut down. That is not the bottom line of what we're talking about. I think everybody's got off base here. I think you talking about supervision. I'm not on that base. I'm on the base of, and I think everybody on y'all side has got excited. It ain't about cutting services. That's the last place that I want to cut services. But the money's gonna have to get a handle on it. I mean, that's just all it is to it. And a lot of that comes with supervision and the right management. I will go back to your statement, Jeff, and I'm like you, this is just my opinion. There's nothing wrong with putting him over EMS only, okay? These other departments, you guys are gonna work together anyway. But when you accept a job as an EMS director, okay, emergency management director, that's not entailed to, and I'm not saying he is, but I've called him a couple times and he's told me where he's at, and I'm like, in my mind, why are you there? I mean, that is a management position, is what that is.
Just real quick, guys, as a kind of parting thought, and I know Commissioner Church has heard this from me before. About a year ago, when we first started talking about some of these concerns we had, I started looking at our county and comparing it to give you guys an idea for the value that I think Caldwell County citizens get out of your emergency services. From a complexity, level of care, number of paramedics that we are supervising, you're most directly comparable, including the volume that your citizens use EMS, to Arlington, Virginia, which is a city with 280,000 people and who has an EMS and fire budget 3 times the size of Caldwell County. And it's a higher cost of living area, sure, but it doesn't account for the nearly triple budget that they have. I mean, we're running discount EMS service. And the reality of it is that we're doing our best, I think. And I think you have a very sophisticated EMS service. There are a lot of dedication to your staff and paramedics. And I think there's a lot of risk if we cut too much. They do an excellent job. I mean, I really get to work with these guys a lot. And to talk about Trevor's qualifications, Trevor, like myself, is actually one of the few graduates of one of this country's greatest EMS education programs. He's quite qualified for his position from a credentialing standpoint. He's young, just like I'm young. But just to kind of give you an idea, it has been a year. And I think if we can come together, and I will commit to do that. If you guys, we had a committee, a work group, I'll be there. I'll do my best to add, my expertise to help you guys make those decisions. But I don't want to use a cleaver. I do think it's dangerous. And I'm not talking about from a supervisory standpoint. I'm just saying is that money's in, money out. If you cut money and there's not there to do things with, I mean, everything costs something. And I think what I'm saying is for the level of complexity of service you have, you really don't have much supervisory structure. I just to give you guys a comparison to other states and counties I've been involved in, one of my biggest things I've always been surprised with here is how little you guys actually run the EMS service with from a supervisory standpoint. You don't really have a lot of people in management roles compared to other EMS services I've been involved with. And I'm a little spoiled. I came from a state with quite a lot of resources, and I certainly understand that. But I am constantly surprised at how much these guys do with what they have. It is a testament to them. They do a pretty remarkable job. We could be better, 100%. We all could be better, and I can commit to help them be better. But I think this county has a pretty good value EMS system. Thank you, guys.
I think, to your point, I think y'all do a good job. But like I said, I think everybody's missing the cue here. I ain't got nothing against Trevor, and I don't know that anybody at this table does. It's not about Trevor. It's not about what kind of education he's got. He's inherited something. We understand that. But according to Tony, it's potentially got worse. Am I saying that correct, Tony? It's more of a management. It ain't got a thing to do with the quality of care. It ain't got anything to do with cutting vehicles. The bottom line is, I think we're all drawing for straws here. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is the overtime money being spent, we have got to get to the bottom of it. I'm not here as a commissioner to say we don't want him as director, we're going to fire him. That's not what nobody at this table said. And I think when you talk about the type of service we got, I fully understand y'all have got great service, but it's not about the service at this point. I think y'all do a great job. I think we need to figure out how to run that service more efficiently.
Sir, I think it's very efficient already, is what I'm telling you.
Okay.
Yeah, I just, as someone who's, I'm the outsider, and I'll tell you, this is my expertise. It's dangerously efficient, is what I'm telling you. We need more supervisory structure, not less. And I'm telling you, as someone who has to look at it and go, oh my God, where's that big thing coming from? And I get it, we can be better. And I really don't think you're talking bad about Trevor. I don't want to make it out like that's what you're doing. I don't think that's what's going on. I think what I'm saying is there are structural elements to the way that this service is run from just how much we commit to it that make it very difficult. And there are elements about the EMS profession that make it very difficult to staff that are not your fault, not this commission's fault, or really not anyone at Caldwell County's fault. It's a professional thing that is unique to the EMS profession. There's very high attrition. The average lifespan of a paramedic in this country is about 5 years. So you're basically constantly refreshing your EMS service. That's not just you guys, that's everywhere in the United States. And these are things that when I go to conferences, we talk about all the time. It's not unique to just Caldwell. So there's unique elements to staffing an EMS service may be different than, say, a water department or the county budget office or something like that are very different because we don't keep paramedics in this country because we, as a citizenry, we don't value them. We don't spend the time and energy to educate them, to train them, to respect them, and to keep them, and they have a hard job. I mean, these guys, because I have the same patients at the hospital. They're getting kicked and screamed at, yelled at all the time. It's a thankless job. And then you add on to the fact, as Commissioner Potter said, then you're starting from a lower salary base. And then you're trying to keep that talent pool. And really what you're looking for is what I'm saying is institutional knowledge. Because when you have a constant attrition of your paramedic workforce, that institutional knowledge is lost, which means that these people who can then train youngins and get them up to speed and get paramedics that can do a good job, they go away. And I actually can see it in the quality assurance. You can actually watch the form and function of the department decrease as you lose those people because you cannot make up for that experience that's lost over time. And I think, when we talk about that, and I think Commissioner Potter's right, is there will be a precipice where we cross, where we can't come back from. And it will be in the form of a major event. It'll be very difficult. And, I just see my role as to be that kind of warning, the canary, and say, hey, listen, and I so get it. I really do appreciate where you guys are coming from. You guys have a hard job. I mean, you really have to sit up here and you have to keep everybody happy and you have to keep the tax base down such that you can justify that. I get it. And on the other side, what you guys pay me for is to sit up here and tell you when there's a potential problem in the future. And I just want us to be careful about how we do it. I think we can be better. I think we can do it smartly, and I'm happy to help you guys do that.
And I will say this, one thing we hadn't talked about is the fact that, and I might be wrong, but I think we've had two, I'm not sure what the word is, if we had two employees at EMS medics that have gone out on some sort of physical,
Long-term medical issue.
That's the
Yeah.
word, medical issue. I think we've had two, maybe three. So, how many?
I think 3, sir.
Yeah, so those three have been out almost all year, so we had to backfill those with somebody who was paid overtime.
Are we gonna have enough to staff this new, I mean, we spent millions and millions on ambulances, on new buildings, and then we took advantage of on overtime up here for $750,000. You know, I mean, that's what's got me the money. I feel like the taxpayers ought to know where this money went to and how it got spent, over budget. This is all over budget money.
Mr. Chair, I make a suggestion, not a motion, just a suggestion, and I think it was mentioned, either Tony or Jeff, that he was already going to have to make up $127,000 in this coming year. You balance that out with another 175 to get to 300,000. Why don't we, Doctor, you made mention about a team of people, a work group, to come along beside Trevor, along with the county manager, maybe even a county commissioner, and let's work together to not only help Trevor get over this 127, but then come back and balance it out with the extra funds, if possible, without sacrificing services, and see where we're at. And let's measure ourselves on a monthly basis, and to where we're just not putting it out there and say, well, we hope it happens, because that's not got us anywhere. Hoping it happens, but let's put some strings on that to where there's some accountability, not only with the EMS, but everybody involved.
Yeah.
And so, I mean,
I think that's very
I'm all in
reasonable.
favor of cutting back, don't get me wrong, and trying to make up some of those funds, but I don't want to sacrifice anything. But then again, I want to put some accountability in it. And if you've offered your services along with Jeff and Tony and everybody else from what I hear, well, let's do it.
Yep.
And I think that we'll have a better EMS service after we see that. And again, measure it on a monthly basis. That's how you do things. You measure things and measure it on a monthly basis and report back. And maybe there's some things that we don't know that we're not doing, that we're doing incorrectly. Maybe there's some other things that we can learn in order to help our staff, because we don't want our staff burning out. I mean, we ain't even talked about that. Well, we did a little bit, because you talked about the life of a paramedic's about 5 years. We don't want to have trucks sitting vacant because we don't have anyone. So there's a lot more here to understand. The overtime and the money is a big piece of it, but I think we can learn a lot more if everybody's willing to pitch in and let's dig in. That's a suggestion.
Yeah.
That's not
But I
an
do
emotion
think,
or anything.
and it's basically what I was saying earlier, but I do think we need to, if we're gonna have a project, I work on a lot of projects, so we need a deadline. I'm sure you work on projects, so we need to have a deadline of, because if you don't, it's just gonna sort of drag out. So I think that, giving you 60, 90 days to do that is appropriate.
Well, to come up with a plan.
Yeah, that's what I
is
mean,
what
kind
you're
of
saying.
which is what Mike's talking about, is
I think, Mr. Chairman, you
put a
can
work
call it
committee together.
EMS oversight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An
I like
EMS
that.
oversight committee. Yeah.
I totally agree, and just bring up a good point, which is that, we come and go. Leadership, we serve at you guys' pleasure, but I really worry about the paramedics. Like, they're my guys, like, that's who I think about,
And
and
they like you, they speak highly of you too.
I hope so. I try.
I think-
But, I worry about them, and I worry about their morale and making sure that they're out there and they have the resources they need to, save lives and do what they need to do, so.
I think, too, when you form the committee, regardless of who's on it, you need to be open-minded, regardless whether it's a paramedic or not.
Oh, yeah.
When somebody's telling you something, and I've always said this about a business, you can see a lot more looking from the outside in than you can from the inside out, because you're used to that every day dealings. When you're out here looking in, you see more than what you really realize.
I could appreciate that. I think absolutely a wide variety of opinions would be valuable.
Who
Absolutely.
wants to head this up?
I'm happy to take the lead on it, and we'll
Yeah.
get some folks appointed.
Yeah.
And you guys tell us when you want to report something back.
And I wouldn't mind being a part of it.
I was gonna
'cause
say, one
got-
of us needs to sit on that, I think.
Definitely at least one.
I think we all need to sit on it.
Well, we can.
Well, if you're
Mr.
gonna be
Manager,
a
if
part
I
of it,
may,
be a part of
just
it.
in case y'all were waiting on me as you did this debate, I don't see any, on the procedural question that, of Chairman Branch's motion, I don't see any problem with amending a budget ordinance after you've adopted the initial ordinance, and you can do that on first reading, the motion being put forth tonight. Again, that's just the procedural question of whether you can amend the budget after it's passed. I don't see any prohibition on that. Obviously, the budget has to balance, so I assume Tony probably wants you to, if you make that motion, to direct it to another fund, whether it may be the contingency fund or general fund.
Reduce the fund balance appropriation by equal amount.
Yeah.
And he suggested on personnel, we probably should just talk to Wayne about it, and not talk about
No.
personnel changes or anything.
Yeah, just let it be a management decision, so. All right, are we all good on where we're at? We're going to establish a committee, an EMS oversight committee, and we're going to delve into this overtime issue
Just-
sooner than later. I
Yeah.
know you suggested September, but
Man, I mean,
I'm like August,
Man, I'm fine with
maybe July.
I'm fine with that. I just,
We got to get a handle on it coming out the gate.
Mr. Chairman, I think too, that y'all need, just like any other board, would be the airport board, would be the DSS board, that y'all need to appoint people or
Right,
recommend. I mean,
Yeah.
does that come?
County manager can do that, yeah, yeah.
and we'll run all that through, but the one answer of a question though that I would have, and Patrick mentioned us all sitting on that, I don't know that we can all show up at a
correct.
meeting unless it's a publicized, and
Just don't do it on Monday night.
so,
Well, you got
anyway,
your
we've got to, we'd have
Public
some,
meetings issue.
yeah,
We'll do whatever we have to do.
Yeah.
so two of us can serve
Two
on
of us
that
can serve
committee.
on it.
So, all right.
Are
think
you
I
two
still
gonna
got-
listen to the other three?
Say that again.
Yes, sir, I would.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
I would definitely, appreciate all in.
I think we got a
input.
motion on the floor, ain't we? On the
Yeah.
table here, that we need to dispose of.
So,
I ain't disposed of it, I wanna call it to a vote.
No, I understand. I'm just saying, we got to do something with it, though.
Yeah.
I think.
so your motion is to reduce the EMS budget by 300,000.
Yes, sir.
Can we amend that and say, but it could be added back in as
Yes.
deemed necessary?
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't mind that at all,
Okay,
if we deem it necessary,
yeah,
Out of this coming budget.
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And I can go along with that part of it. So, any other discussion or comment there?
Just as long as we can deem it back, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah. All right, so I'll call the question. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
All right, so that motion carries. And a healthy discussion again.
Good discussion.
And some of those things that county managers and commissioners get to have fun with. So we appreciate everybody's patience and input, and looking forward to moving on. All right, so with that, I don't think there's anything else. We do have a closed session on our agenda this evening, so I make a motion that we enter into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A5 to discuss a matter relating to the acquisition of real property. Okay.
So moved.
We don't expect any decision out of that. That's right.
Bathroom break.
Yeah. All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here this evening.
You think I'm kidding?
No, you're not.